Sure.
Keith.
Such a gift. It is such a gift to say to your music director, hey, this is what I want. And he's like, okay. What a gift. The first time I heard that song, do you remember? I was with my sister. We went to go see Tangled, and my spouse was out of town in Iowa. His mother was making her transition, which we didn't really realize at the time. And she had been suffering through an illness. And when I saw this song, and if you've seen it on the big screen, it was like what hit me is my mother-in-law was in her freedom form, and she could see the light, and that was hard. So again, that happened quite some time ago. So thank you. And it fits in perfectly with the message, and at last I see the light, and with our yearly theme, which I'm so excited about, New Year, New Light. I'm going to talk more about that. What I want to do first is thank Terry Olson for guiding us last Sunday. Let's give her a hand. Thank you so much. I've had so many people tell me how inspired they were by that. So thank you, Terry, for always bringing that inspiration to us. I watched it on Facebook, so a shout out to Glenn, to JC, for those of you, to Paul, to Shannon, who make the back possible. And if you guys, please come forward and add to that team, because it makes those who aren't here, they can watch us. And it was perfect. I got to be at home in my pajamas and join y'all for church. And that's what I did. And within a couple of minutes of her meditation, I got my word. And I'm going to share it with y'all because it helps me with the practice, right? That's what we do. We share so that we can grow together and remind one another, right? Not in a nasty kind of way, but just in a... Your word was forgiveness. You're not being forgiving right now. No, that's not what we do. So my word was trust. And I talked to somebody else. Yeah, there she is. Somebody else yesterday who that was her word as well, Sarah. And so I've been writing about it because for me, what it reminds me of, like, just trusting myself with myself, right? Trusting myself with myself, trusting the divine within me, trusting the universal flow of life. Who does that easily? Right? So that's my word. And share your words with me. Please come. I would like for us at some point to come together and just really talk about our word and how it's unfolding for us. So let's think about how we can do that. Second, the other thing about it is that it helped me work on a yearly theme. And this came from a time I had with Reverend Vito. We were last year sometime talking about what we wanted to do in January and to start the year with, and we said we're both committed to the Bible and working on the Bible. And one of the things she had said in our conversation is, I want Bible to see it through this new lens, right? See it through another lens, not necessarily the lens that they grew up with, but this other adult, spiritually enlightened place that we're all in right now. And so it was like a new light, right? And so what I feel like is in this new year is, let's see everything in a new light. Doesn't that sound wonderful? Yeah. Everything from the divine eyes, knowing that those are our eyes too. Every person, every situation, everything that shows up in your light, in your life, you choose to see it through a new light, rather than whatever baggage, because it's so easy. It's like, oh yeah, here they come, right? They're going to tell me the same story. If you've been married a long time, you know what I'm talking about. Sorry, but it's true. You hear the same story. Oh, do you not? That's what you're committed to, hearing the same stories over and over again. Or friendships. When you've been friends with somebody for a long time, you're going to hear the same story and over again. But how about this? In a new light. I'm going to hear this in a new light, because there's a reason why this person is saying this again. There's something that they want me to know and hear. So that's the yearly theme. How do y'all feel about it? Great. Good. I love it. Thank you. And And so our affirmation that I want us to take away and use for the week and use in our lives is, and at last I see the light, inspired by Disney. And at last I see the light. And at last I see the light. And say it one more time. And at last I see the light. Just breathe it in one more time. And at last I see the light. What came up for me is our candle eve, our Christmas candle lighting service. Now, we did have some issues with the candles. However, we managed everyone to light a candle, did we not? And seeing the glow of the light in everyone's faces, it was undeniable that there's a light within us, right? Undeniable. And so that's what I want to practice, because that Christmas candle lighting service is always in the past, gets me through the year. You and I attended the same ones years and years and years. We did at where I grew up at Unity of Houston. And it takes me through the year, and it reminds me, like when things are hard, go back and remember that we're all that divine light. And when you see those people in the glow of the light, that is what we are. So that is the theme for the year. And I'm taking this, we're moving now to Hebrew Scriptures. So what I'm asking us, and what we are, Reverend Vita and I, is to look at seeing the Bible through a new light, through a new lens, and to see it as a textbook for teaching the truth, a textbook for a manual for understanding a spiritual unfoldment. How's that? That's exactly what our co-founders asked us to do. It's like they did not believe in reading the Bible literally. They believed in reading it as this symbolic piece, this historical document that can give us an idea of where we are in our own truth and how to keep growing in that truth, if that makes sense. And the beautiful thing about it is it's not like, oh, there's only one way to read these, right? And it's this universal way that fits for everybody. No, the beautiful thing is you enter into it and you say, oh, what does this story have to say about me or where I am? How am I this character? How am I this character? And what can I learn from it? So that's what we're going to do, the Hebrew Scriptures. And I'm going to begin with the creation stories. So here's what I'm asking all of us to do. To be open and receptive to the Bible as a metaphysical lens. To be open to these stories for a centering practice. I know that the story of Ruth has been a centering practice for me. Think about Ruth and the way that she loves. It's just unconditional. She's complete forgiveness. She's non-judgment. That's been one of my centering stories. And then to see the Bible is something that brings a new light to our lives. So that's what we're asking of you. We're focusing on the Hebrew Scriptures this month and some of next month. And I'm going to look at the two creation stories this morning that show up in Genesis. And y'all, I'm sure, know what they are. The first one is God created the world, the universe. The second one is God created Adam and Eve, right, in the garden. So those are the two we're going to look at. So I'm going to stick to my notes right now because I'm going to give you a little bit of like history. And so just bear with me. So most scholars believe that Genesis is a composite work created over several centuries by multiple authors or groups of scribes. Who knew that? Okay, good, a lot of you. This process is often described using the documentary hypothesis. Did y'all know that? No. Okay, some of you did. I need to throw out candy at y'all for when y'all know the answer. I'm sorry, I didn't bring any. I should have. Although I'm really bad at throwing, so maybe not. I would have hit you in the face. Anyway, so here the J is considered the Yahwist. It was written in the 10th or 9th century. The E, the Elohist, dates to the 8th or the 9th century. The priestly source is 6th or 5th century, written during or after the Babylonian exile. And then the final redaction, the individual sources were woven together into the final form during the 5th century BCE. There are two creation stories. The first one that appears in the Bible, God creates, no, that's not right. Okay. Anyway, I'll tell you. Is this the right one? I'm sorry, y'all. Okay, let's move on. I didn't put it. I know. Okay, let me move on. Here it is. The two creation stories were written at different times and by different authors. Did y'all know that? Yes. Okay. The priestly source and the Yahweh source. The P source uses a formal and poetic style. Do y'all know that, right? The Lord created this. The Lord created that. It's very formal. And humanity's creation is last. Here's the thing about that story. This is the one about in the beginning God created, right? Is that, do you realize that both man and woman were created at the same time in that one? Did you notice that? Okay. It's easy to forget, right? Because when you go to Adam and Eve, what happens? Exactly. So it's easy to forget that part. That other one, they're created together. Anyway, yeah, I know. And so the first one is this poetic style, and then the next one has a vivid narrative, and it focuses on the Garden of Eden, as y'all know. So why does this matter? Why does the history matter? Because none of us are going to go write articles and get, biblical scholarship. Here's why I believe it matters. So often the Bible is weaponized. Would you agree? Yes. In other words, there are those that take what is written in the Bible and see it as a factual account and impose what is written onto people and believe people should live by this in a literal sense. And it's done damage, right? There are those that read it literally and insist on its absolute truth and maintain that God inspired every word. And I do not mean to condemn that way of reading the Bible. However, I do believe that when one reads the Bible that way, one is ignoring the fact that the Bible is a product of a long and intriguing process. Wow. Right? It's a long, I just explained all the different kinds of sources, all the different centuries. Now, here's the other piece of it. And this comes from a Bible scholar, and I've got the book in my bag for deeper dive. We can look at it. John Barton writes that the Old Testament, which we call the Hebrew Bible or Hebrew Scriptures, comes to us from the ancient Near East and cannot be understood without some knowledge of the history of Israel at the time and the languages in which it was circulated. Now, who growing up learned that it was also a piece of Near Eastern literature? Your kids did. Some of y'all did. Okay, right? I know in my CCD classes, that is not what I was taught. I was definitely taught that Eve came out of a man. I was definitely taught that part. But I was not taught this whole other piece. Context means everything, right? It means absolute everything. So the other thing that John Barton says that I want us to play with is he says that when we read the Bible in this context, we will see a recurring theme, that the Hebrew Bible tells a story rather than give instruction on what to believe or what to do. That's what he says. He continues, the path from the biblical text to religious belief and practice in Judaism or Christianity today is far from straightforward. Wow. Isn't that huge, you guys? That's big. That's so big. He's basically saying, yeah, the Bible isn't telling us what to say, what to do, what to believe. That's not the point of it. And I believe this is where we fall in unity. This is where our co-founders fall in unity. And hopefully I'm on the right page. Sorry, y'all. I'm out of practice. So as I said, we don't read it literally. We read it metaphysically. We look at the meaning that is beyond the page and see what the story means for us personally. See how we can discern spiritual insight when we put ourselves into the story. In other words, what does this story mean for my spiritual path, my spiritual unfoldment, and what it means for me may not be what it means for you. So, Genesis 1 tells a story of when God created the universe, while Genesis 2 is a story of Adam and Eve and the Garden of Eve. And so I want us to look at Unity's metaphysical lens. So first I'll read the story. Y'all will recognize it. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth was waste and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. And God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. That's an affirmation in and of itself. You can say to yourself, let there be light, and then trust there will be light. Amen. I will see things through this enlightened wisdom, this divine intelligence. And God saw the light, and it was good, and God divided the light from the darkness, and God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there was evening, and there was morning one day. So in Let There Be Light, a Unity minister and author, I see some of you brought your copy, I brought mine, we're going to look at them at deeper dive. She asserts that the word earth represents our consciousness. And it is waste and void until we know that the Spirit of God within the depths of our being is moving in purposeful activity. Isn't that beautiful? That's another way of seeing the earth. It's waste and void until we know. And when I read that, what I think about is like, it's that idea of that divine purpose, that creative impulse. It's already within us, right? That's what the light is. And at last we see the light, right? It's that energy that is already moving within us. It's asking us to move forward and grow and transform. So she says, our great need is for light. Light represents illumination, intelligence, and wisdom. We can have no real comprehension of the scriptures until we are aware that the Holy Spirit within is decreeing light. She believes that when we read the Bible, we must affirm to ourselves, let there be light, and close it with grateful acknowledgement that there was light. She believes that this affirmation attunes our minds to the Spirit of truth. Is that not beautiful? So we can do that with the Bible, but we can do that with everything in our lives, right? Let there be light and trust that it's there. The second story I said I was going to read to y'all is the second creation story of Adam and Eve. Adam, a laid-back, perpetually naked manager of a high-end eco-resort, is bored out of his mind. It's true. This is the story. The amenities are great. Unlimited fruit, perfect weather, no HOA fees, but the only other residents are the wildlife, who aren't great conversationalists. Enter Eve, a sharp, curious woman looking for something more than endless leisure. She immediately notices the glaring security flaw in all-access tree of knowledge with a single, incredibly arbitrary rule: do not touch the forbidden fruit. Seriously, don't. The serpent, Sam, is not so much a villain as an opportunistic, slightly sleazy influencer trying to boost engagement. Sam sells Eve on the exclusive Consciousness Plus upgrade that comes with the fruit. It's organic, gluten-free, and unlocks critical thinking. Best ROI, as you know, return on investment, in the garden. Trust me, he hisses. Eve, seeing the absurdity of the one rule in a place with infinite rules, takes a bite. She shares it with Adam, who mostly just wants to keep the peace and avoid any trouble with the landlord. Suddenly, they realize two things simultaneously. One, as you know, they're completely naked in front of all the animals. Two, they've been evicted for violating the lease agreement's forbidden fruit clause. The landlord, God, isn't just angry, he's disappointed. He issues a classic "you had one job" lecture and permanently revokes their resort privileges. Adam and Eve are banished to the real world, where they must deal with the ultimate adult responsibilities: finding clothes, doing laundry, paying bills, dealing with suburban life, and wondering if that Consciousness Plus upgrade was really worth the eviction. Wow. I know, right? That's the story, right? That's pretty much the story. And we've made the story to turn into a complete fall, right? And this what is it? This baggage, of the sin-laden baggage that makes us walk with believing that we're not good enough or not worthy. And it really is not helpful. So I want to share what Charles Fillmore says about the fall, because that is such a key part of Christianity, and Unity shifts that and looks at it differently and says, according to Genesis, sin came into the world through Adam and Eve's lack of understanding. Adam and Eve were innocent children put into this great universal mind of being with all its intricate, deep metaphysical facts. They knew nothing about them. They had no experience. The serpent means experience, one of its meanings. Another one is a subtlety of sense or sensation, and these poor innocent children had to acquire an understanding. Now we are the innocent children. We are the offspring of these original ancestors of the race. And they didn't always incorporate into their evolution the wisdom or the knowledge of the great universal mind. They slipped. They fell away from the understanding of how to use principles or how to use what we might call life. Isn't that beautiful? Right? We slip. Maybe we don't understand. We do better when we know better. Isn't that beautiful? It takes away all of that heaviness, that burden that isn't even necessary or wasn't ever even meant to be that, right? So here's my hope, that we study the Hebrew scriptures, that we have fun with it. I mean, look at the Adam and Eve story. That's a fun story, right? That's a fun story. That's my hope for us, that we have fun with it. Come to the deeper dive. We're going to have fun talking about it, talking about where we are, talking about what we bring to the Bible. That's a really important thing. Some of us didn't grow up with reading the Bible. I'm Catholic. I didn't. So let's come and do that. And then I want to read one more thing to y'all. I just remembered. I came across this week, and it's really lifted me. It's Mother Teresa's words. There is a light in the world, a healing spirit, more powerful than any darkness we may encounter. We sometimes lose sight of this force when there is suffering, too much pain. Then suddenly, spirit will emerge through the lives of ordinary people who hear a call and answer in extraordinary ways. Isn't that beautiful? So that's the good news, y'all. We're here together. We've heeded that call. We are the light, and we're here to be bearers of that light for one another. Amen.